Hello, my dear friends. So the elections have ended, but unfortunately, there's a tremendous division in the country between the Democrats and the Republicans. That division was heightened during the presidential campaign and the campaigns in the Senate and the House as well. And we were hoping that maybe now that when the election would finally be over, maybe there would be some unity. But there is no unity. There's only division, and there's still the acrimony and the rage and the anger is still there, and that's a terrible thing because shalom is such an important and fundamental quality that for individuals, shalom bayis, but also for society, for a country. The Chazal say that Lo Matza Kadosh Baruch Hu Kli Machzik Bracha K'mo Shalom. Kadosh Baruch Hu does not have a greater vessel for bracha than shalom. And that's what's missing here in America. There's many wonderful things about America, but there's no shalom. And the two sides are so angry at each other. They don't even have a dialogue. They won't even talk to each other, and that's enormously unhealthy. In the parsha, you see how important it is to maintain shalom, because the Chumash says that there was a machlokus between the shepherds of Avram and the shepherds of Lot, because there wasn't enough room, enough land for the grazing of the animals. So Rashi says that why was there a machlokus? Because the shepherds of Lot went ahead and grazed their animals on land that did not belong to them. And they justify that because they said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had promised Avram that he was going to inherit the land, and they were Lot was Avram's nephew, so the land, Lot had the right to access the land, to use the land. So, and Rashi says that was a mistake because Hashem had only promised the land to Avram when eventually when the nations living on that territory will be conquered. But right now, there was the Ktani and the Prizi, the Chumash says, were still living on the land. So that was something for the future, but it wasn't at the present time. So it was an error. And so Avram says to Lot, that Al not riva beini uvenecha. There shouldn't be a fight between you and me. My shepherds and your shepherds. We're brothers. We're close relatives. We should not have a fight. And therefore, Avram told the Lot, let's separate. Let's go different ways. Instead of trying to work it out, you go one direction and I'll go the other direction. So the question is that Avram was the Megayer Gabriel. He was the one that proselytized. He was the one that brought people closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. His own nephew, he's sending away. He chases him away, and in fact, the Lot ended up going to Sodom, which is a place of more depravity. There was no other way. So the answer, so you see, is no. When there's a machlokas, it has to be diffused, and there was no other way. It was necessary, even though Avram was mekarv everybody, but when it came to machlokas, it was departing them alive. Let's separate one from each other. In fact, the Baal HaTurim says that the Rashi Tevos of Ve'yipardu ish me'alachiv Avram Yashav be'eretz Canaan, that they separated one from their brothers, from Avram from Lot, his brother, and Avram stayed in Eretz Canaan. So the final letters of that part of that phrase, ish me'al achiv Avram, is the Rashi Tevos is Shalom. It's an acronym for Shalom. That the way Avram created Shalom is by Yipardo Ish Me'al Achiv, by the separation that between Avram and Lot. It had to diffuse the situation. Without diffusing it, there could not be any Shalom. And that was even more important than Avram being Mekar Lot. You can't be Mekar somebody when there's a machlokus going on. The Meforshim point out that the Chumash says that there was Vayiriv ben Broe Miknei Avram very Roe Miknei Lot. There was an argument between Avram and Lot, and Avram says to Lot, "I'll not to him Meriva beini uvenecha." There shouldn't be a Meriva. So the word Riv and Meriva both mean the same thing. They both mean an argument or a fight, but one is masculine, one is feminine. Why does the Chumash flip it and go from Riv to Riva? So many of the Mefarshim say because the machlokas it grows. It's like quicksand. It keeps on expanding, and therefore initially it's a riv, which is like lashon zachar. It's masculine, so self-contained. But it becomes a meriva, which means it gives birth. It escalates and it becomes worse and worse. And therefore Avram had to send Lot away. The Meforshim point out also that Avram says to Lot, "I'll not meriva bein you v'necho vein roya vein recha." There shouldn't not be a fight between you and me, and between your shepherds and my shepherds. Where was the fight between the Avram and Lot? The Chumash says a few psukim earlier that the shepherds were fighting. It doesn't say that Avram and Lot were fighting. So all the Meforshim say but the point is that the Riva always spreads. An argument, a fight always it grows, and more people get involved. And it was inevitable that if the shepherds of Avram were arguing with the shepherds of Lot, that Avram and Lot would be drawn into that machlokas as well. So you see how dangerous the machlokas is. That it's contagious and it spreads, and that Avram felt that there's no eitzah. He has to send his nephew away. So now I have a question to ask, and that is, why did I have another way, a solution for this problem? Why did Avram have to send Lot away? Avram should have sat down with Lot and explained to him and with the shepherds and say, this cheshbon, this rationalization that you have to take the land for grazing because God said it's mine. You misunderstood. God said it's going to be mine. It's not mine right away. Not mine now. And certainly they would have respected Avram. Avram was a prophet. The very fact that the shepherds said the land belongs to Avram, who said? It's because they knew that Avram was a prophet and he had a prophecy. So you would think that they would respect a Navi. If a Navi Avram would say that this was not the way the prophecy went. The prophecy, you heard it from me. I'm going to tell you that the prophecy was that it's going to be mine in the future. It belong to my descendants, but it's not mine now. So why did Avram have to send away Lot? Why didn't Avram explain to them that you have a misunderstanding? So I think the answer is that human nature is that nobody likes to be told that they're wrong. Nobody's willing to acknowledge that I made a mistake. And therefore, Avram knew if he would tell the shepherds of Lot, and if he would tell Lot that you're wrong, your position is wrong, you're shepherds, it's taking land, they're stealing the land, it's wrong. It's morally wrong. It's unethical. It's forbidden. Then they would have not accepted Avram's position, because nobody likes to hear that they are wrong, and that's a critical element in diffusing machlokas. You see, what Avram was trying to do was to diffuse the fight that was taking place. The way to diffuse a machlokas is to separate the parties, is to give them a way of cooling off. But to tell them, if Avram had tried to tell Lot and his shepherds that your position is wrong, it would have just made the machlokas even greater. And this is a tremendous yesod in how to diffuse. And when you're dealing with machlokas, it's so important to find a way to diffuse it. And sometimes diffusing it could be by separating the parties and let them cool off and put them in separate rooms or have a cooling off period. Or sometimes you could diffuse it by making a compromise. You let both sides, each side should feel that they're getting something. But that is the approach to dealing with machlokas has to be to diffuse it. And the way you diffuse it is not by trying to convince the other person that they're wrong. Once you say you're mistaken, then there's no hope of winning, of diffusing the machlokas. I told the story in the past that my father was a rabbi in Young Israel Forest Hills in the 1960s and 1970s. In the 1960s, the JDL was very popular, the Jewish Defense League, and there was a lot of the Jewish Defense League was Meir Kahana organized the Jewish Defense League to protect the Jewish community, as there is now, the tremendous amount of anti-Semitism, and the members of the Jewish Defense League were armed with chains and with brass knuckles, and they took an approach of a belligerent approach to dealing with the anti-Semitism and the crimes that were being. They had patrols, and so there was a big argument within the Jewish community whether that approach was proper or inappropriate for the Jewish community. But my father felt that as the rabbi of Young Israel Forest Hills, he had to make a statement. He didn't have the luxury of sitting on the sidelines. So my father made an announcement in the shul. Next Shabbos, I'm going to talk about the JDL, and I'm going to share my position. So everybody came to hear my father speak the next Shabbos. So my father, mamish brilliant, my father did the following. My father said, I want to explain, there's two sides to this story, two sides to this machlokas. Both sides have validity. those that argue in favor of the JDL and those that argue against it. So I want to explain the depth of each position. So first, my father spent 15 minutes explaining why the JDL is a terrific thing. It shows devotion and dedication and obviously Yisrael and care and concern and sense of responsibility for the community, and it built it up. So, and these people are being most nefesh. They're putting their own lives in danger. 15 minutes, my father spoke about how terrific the JDL is. And then he said, now I want to explain the other side. And he explained that it's the Jewish way, and there's a difference in Yaakov and Esau, and Kol Yaakov Yadayim Yadei Esau. Esau is always fighting, Yaakov is with his tefillah. Whatever it is, the diplomacy, the other position is that this is not the Jewish way. It's not a Jewish value. So then my father said, so look, you see, both sides have validity, but if you ask me my opinion, I lean more in favor of those that say that it's better for the Jews not to be involved in this type of activity. So the chachma of my father, the brilliance of my father, what my father did was that if my father had stood up and said, I don't think it's right to have a JDL, the people that agreed with him would have applauded, and the people that disagreed, even though they had tremendous respect for my father, would not have accepted what he had to say, because nobody likes to be told that they're wrong. So instead, my father, he validated both positions. So first he said how terrific the JDL, and he wasn't exaggerating. He didn't fabricate. My father, what he was saying was true. That the people that were involved in JDL, it is very special, and it shows Ahavas Yisrael. But my father won them over because they knew that my father was on their side, that my father understood how they feel, and therefore they respected my father. And then when my father explained the other side, so the people on that position, they also were won over. And then once my father had won over both sides, and he had diffused the anger, so to speak, so then my father was able to say, listen, I hear what you're saying, but I think that this would be still would be a better approach. And that is one of the key elements in how to avoid a machlokas, and that is to validate the other person's position. If the president of the United States, is not going to, but if Donald Trump will ask me, what should we do now? How can we bring the country together? What I would recommend to him would be follow the example of my father. Tell the Democrats, I understand where you're coming from. I understand your position, and your position has a great deal of validity. But and I understand the other position as well of the Republicans. I happen to favor the position of the Republicans, but validate first the position of the other side, and that's the key to solving a machlokas is to diffuse it. Because when people are angry, there's nobody to talk to, and it could be Avram Avinu, who's a great Navi, who won't make any difference. Nobody's going to pay attention. The key is diffuse the situation, and sometimes you have to diffuse by hipar no me'alai. Let's go our own separate ways. You'll go here and I'll go there, so there should be no interaction. And then, but the other eitzah, the other way to diffuse it is to validate both positions, to show that you understand and everybody. People are not evil. Everybody's motivated by good values. It's just that sometimes it gets distorted. And sometimes it's because the person has personal interest or whatever the reason is. So, but you have to be able to find the good in the position. It may have been distorted, but there's a core good in there, and you have to validate it. And when you validate it, then the other person's ego is not on the line. I said this a number of times, that Bilam was riding on his donkey, and the donkey saw the angel that was standing post to kill Bilam with a sword. So Bilam becomes furious and he's hitting his donkey. And then finally, Hashem es pi also, and Hashem let the donkey speak to Bilam. And the donkey says, Sonny, why did you hit me? And Bilam says, what do you mean when I hit you? It's allowed to be, you humiliated me. So all the Bali Musa say, what's wrong with Bilam? There's a miracle going on. The donkey's talking to him. Why doesn't Bilam call over his friends and say, hey guys, look, I have a talking donkey? But and he should have realized that if there's a miracle, the donkey is an instrument of God. So it's as if God is saying to Bilam, you did something wrong. How come Bilam instead he continues to be enraged and he tells the donkey, you know what, I would murder you? And the question is even further. The question is that who argues with a donkey? I give you a marshal. Let's say, for example, you're walking your dog, and the dog is pulling on the leash, and he wants to go in a certain direction, and you're getting angry because that's not the way you want to go, and you want to go home, and the dog's pulling you someplace else, and the dog keeps pulling. So you begin to yell at your dog. You say, "You stupid dog! You're the dumbest dog that there is, and what's wrong with you?" And then finally, the dog would open his mouth and say, "Hey, why are you yelling at me? I'm your loyal dog. Why are you yelling at me?" Would you respond and say, "You want to know why I'm yelling at you? Because you're the dumbest dog there is, and if you keep this up, I'm going to take you to the dog pound, and that'll be the end of you." You don't argue with a dog. So why does Bilam argue with his donkey? It's so unbelievable. The answer is because Bilam's ego was on the line, and when a person's ego is hurt, the donkey humiliated Bilam in front of the elders of Moab. When a person is humiliated, there's nothing to talk to. That's why people have wax in their ears. So that, I think, at least in our own lives, we don't control the politics in America, the Democrats and Republicans and the political officers. But at least in our own lives, these are enormously important lessons. The importance of shalom, and the way to achieve shalom is if there is even the beginning of a machlokas. That's what Avram nipped it in the bud even before he and Lot were arguing. But Avram knew it was going to lead to an argument between himself and his nephew. So you nip it in the bud, and the way to do that is you diffuse the situation. Find ways to diffuse. If possible, make a compromise. Work out something that both sides will feel that they feel that they've accomplished their goals, and their ego will be intact. Don't criticize the other side. Bring them together. Show that you understand and validate what they're saying. And that way, it'll be possible to have shalom. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful Shabbos.